everybody, good morning to you. This is Ra with a message for you today. Today's message is an important message because I designed it to help people who are dealing with depression, stress, mental anguish, mental just frustration. You know, the stress of life is hammering down. So this message today is designed to help reduce that. But I want to make one thing very clear about my message. And I think I probably will start, saying this more often because it's important. I know I've said it, but I want to make sure that I coined what I'm getting ready to tell you, which is all of the content in the world will not change you. And that includes my content. My content will not change you except for if you apply it to your life. Now, it's important for you to know that because information does not change people. Information gives people the opportunity to change. I say that because I know a lot of people who have a lot of information but no change. There are a lot of people who I talk to, and even when they come face to face with their own disconnect, they still hold so tight into what they have been doing. And I know that that's not necessarily intentional because as humans, we are creatures of habit. Plus, we are also people who like situations of least resistance. We don't like to be in situations where there's a whole lot of work involved. Even if the work is to help us, we don't like those situations. It becomes very uncomfortable. And in our brain, we have mechanisms that protect us from situations such as that. So when we start to experience anything that requires some kind of work, the brain says, do we have to do that? And as a result, we all end up procrastinating, and that includes myself. So you got to be very careful. But I wanted to make sure that you understand, as I really want these messages to be effective, not just be messages that you hear and go, oh, that's good. I like that. I also want my messages to have an impact, but the impact does not come from the message alone. The impact comes from knowing the message, you know it, now you take it to the level of wisdom where you begin to practice, you become a practitioner. You practice some of these things and you look for your own reflection in it. Because what I'm telling you is an echo of me. I'm a filter. Everything that I'm saying works perfectly for me. That's why I'm sharing it. Your responsibility is to be a scientist for yourself. Evaluate what you hear, not just in my content, but in any content that you hear. Do your own homework and do your own research so that you can find what works for you. Sometimes we get so caught up in following that we completely forget that it's not about being a follower, it's about being a leader. Everybody is a leader. Everybody is qualified to be a leader. The qualifications for being a leader are very, very simple. Very simple. All you have to do is go first, hence the word leader, and then all you have to do is influence. Who are you influencing first? You're influencing yourself. Critical points. Go first, right? You don't need somebody to do it for you. You want to know something, you go get it. If there's something that needs to be done, you do it. That's leadership. The second qualification is to influence. Who are you influencing? Yourself. Do you need anybody else to be influenced? Not necessarily. The most important person to be influenced in leadership is yourself, Because if you are not influenced by yourself, no one else will be. That is just the truth. And leadership, just like anything else, is two-sided. You can lead in the right way and you can lead in the wrong way. When I say lead in the right way, I'm specifically referring to leading in a way that supports what you're trying to do, your purpose. And leading in the wrong way is leading in a way that does not support your purpose. Now, if you take that beyond yourself, leading those who are following you in a way that supports the group's purpose, the team's purpose, versus leading, wrong leadership is leadership that leads the team or the group in a way that does not support the purpose of the team, the mission, the vision. Okay, so that's how I'm defining it. And I just wanted to be very clear. So let me go ahead and get into my message, which is all about how to minimize depression, stress, anger. If you're someone who is trying to manage your anger, this is a very good message for anger management, stress management, depression management. This is one of those things. Okay, so here you go. One of the easiest ways that I know of in regards to minimizing or eliminating stress, depression, anger, all of these things, is to go back to basics. So many times people overstep it because it's the first step. It's the very first step. And with most of us, we overstep the first step. It's like when you step out of bed in the morning, the first step that you take, you don't even realize. I can prove it to you. I'm sure if you think for a minute, what is my first step when I get out of bed? Most people will think you're laying there, you wake up, then you get into the seated position, and then you take a step, right? That's not the first step. You moved right past it. The first step that you took was when you opened your eyes. The first step to waking up in the morning and getting out of bed is to open your eyes. That's why most people don't get out of bed until they open their eyes. Then the next step is to place your feet on the floor. That's another step. Once you place your feet on the floor, then you stand up. That's another step. Then you begin to move yourself in a position where you're able to walk. That's another step. Or you crawl, right? For those of you who are, have physical challenges, or if you're an athlete, I can remember when I was back in high school, I used to work myself out so hard. Sometimes I'd have to crawl out of bed in the morning. And then one of my good friends, he's like a dad or uncle to me, Mingo. Shout out to Mingo, right? Greg Mingo. He said, check it out, man. You need to soak in Epsom salt. So I started soaking in Epsom salt after a long day of working out, playing basketball, training myself so I can be as strong as I possibly can on the courts. I would go home and soak in Epsom salt. So all of these are steps. So when I talk about going back to basics, right? The back to basics part that I'm referring to is that very first thing in life. If you ever noticed, most babies who are born quote unquote normal or under, good conditions, meaning they have a family, someone is there, someone's loving on that baby, that brand new born baby from the point that they are born. In most cases, those babies they're not judging anything. Their whole point is just to wake up, eat, go to sleep. Wake up, eat, go to sleep. Notice who's around, learn the world as slowly as possible. Well, with depression, stress, anger management, all of those things too, if you stop yourself when you feel yourself escalating and bring yourself back down to the very basics, Food. Food. Do you have food, water, nutritious veggies and fruits to eat? Do you have those things? Are you eating those things, right? Air. Do you have fresh air? Can you breathe? Can you breathe? When you inhale, are you inhaling, right? Deep from the diaphragm of your stomach. Can you breathe, right? And even if you struggle, like if you're in a situation, you know, hospital, something is going on, there's a physical ailment or something like that. Even if you have to breathe a little, the fact that you can breathe a little is progress. Because some people aren't breathing, and that's not to say anything about people who are not here. Shout out to my best friend, my wife. She passed back in 2012. I say that because sometimes we have a tendency to look negatively on those who have passed or transitioned, and we say things like, at least you can breathe, at least you're here, and all those kind of things. And I feel that, you know, I understand when people say those things, but I do not want to ever say anything that kind of goes against or makes it a negative thing to transition. Our ancestors are important, and every single one of them transitioned. So being here is a gift, transitioning is a gift. Never forget that. Somewhere along the line, somebody convinced us that transitioning is a bad thing. And it does not necessarily have to be a bad thing, okay? I mean that in the most positive way, not, you know, hopefully nobody takes that in a way that is offensive or anything. I got nothing but love for life, but I'm a lover of all of life. And I realize that, you know what, when you look at who we are as a people on the earth, from space, you can't even see us on this planet. You can't even, that's how important we are on this planet. You can't even see us from space, right? And then if you go far enough out in space, you can't even see the earth. You can't even see it, you know? It's so crazy when you think about it, when you think about perspective, right? You know, the reason why I'm making this point with you is because stress, depression, anger management, all of those things are the same way. They're so small, but we have a terrible habit of making those things huge. We make them bigger than what they are. I can remember being a kid, little kid, not even a teenager, and I used to watch adults have conversations. I was one of those kids that was kind of grown for my age or mature for my age. I think it has something to do with, you know, I had young parents. So, you know, my mother, I love her. She was a mom and a big sister. You know, those of you who have young parents, you know what I'm talking about now. You don't get all bougie on me, because if you have a young parent, you know, you get away with all kind of stuff, man. Now, I wasn't using profanity in the house. I mean, I was, as a teenager, I was, but, you know, not as a kid. She didn't allow any disrespect or anything like that. But my mother didn't raise me in such a way where she had a lot of secrets. You know, my mom and my dad, they were all very honest in the sense of, you know, the way we were raised. We did not have any space in our lives for dishonesty because of the nature of our environment. We need to be clear. If something was going on, my folks were like, nah, open your mouth, say something, tell us, we need to know. You know, some of you who consume my content, you may have heard me refer to the time when I was a little kid and we had a shootout in the house, right? I don't say that to glorify to anything like that. So if you're living in that lane and you thinking, oh, you know, you're in a hustler's lifestyle, I'm not supporting what you do, okay? I'm just saying that it was a tough thing to go through as a kid because it had a major impact. But for this discussion, I'm talking about how those things had to be discussed. So my parents raised us to be very honest. Some people say that they're honest, but they're not really honest. They're very uncomfortable when people tell them truths about themselves. And, I've been in situations where people acknowledge my calm and my cool about things. And I would love to tell you that I have those things naturally. But the truth is, those things came as a result of a traumatic childhood. When I was a little kid, I learned very quickly that you have to be cool, calm, and collected. You have to be. When you grow up in an aggressive environment where there's guns and drugs and people who want to end your life, they don't care anything about you. The last thing you need is panic in your mind. The frustration that comes from, I don't really know. I don't really understand. I'm just all over the place. You do not want to be in that situation. You want to be in control of your mind, because if you're in control of your mind, your body, and your soul, if you're in control of those things, then at the very least, you can make a logical decision, a logical move, a move that puts you in a position where your life doesn't have to end, So how does all of that relate to going back to basics, man? What I'm simply trying to make a point of with that story is that, man, some people get so stressed about things that you could easily let go of. If you got food, that's a basic, back to basics. If you got food, you're good. It doesn't have to be fancy food. We fancy, most of us, but it does not have to be fancy. If you got air, can't be fancy about air, man. If you got air, if you can breathe, you good. If you got companionship, people around you, even if it's not your natural family, you got friends, people around you who you can just talk to, have a conversation, all of those things, then you got a lot and you don't even know it, And the funny thing about the mind is, you don't even have to know those people, because the way we are set up genetically in our brains, in our bodies, and our souls, we respond to human likeness. We respond to human likeness, which means even if it seems like we're alone, you ever notice how sometimes you look at things and it kind of looks like it's a face, but it's not? It's a tree or it's a lake. In art, we have a way of viewing things like that. We'll put things together that seem like they're not connected, and we see a face in it, we'll see arms, we'll see a body. We have that as human beings. We can do those things, and those things echo our reality. They echo our reflection to us. They let us know that we are here. We are recreated all over again, and everything that you see, everything around you. So if you're going through stress, depression, anger, frustration, my challenge to you is to go back to the basics. Remember that what you believe is stressing you does not have to be stressing you. It's your focal point. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the fact that something is not going in the direction that you wanted to go in? Are you focusing on your ability to not be able to do something about your situation, or seemingly? Is that what you're focusing on? Well, go back to basics. Do you have food? Yes. Air? Yes. Companionship? Yep. Then you got it, man. That is the absolute basics. Once you get back to basics, your next step is to take small incremental steps towards what you really want, whatever it is. Reverse engineer. Think about what you really want and then kind of move backwards from it. Don't allow the fact that whatever it is that you really want, you don't physically have yet. Don't worry about that. It will come. Sometimes things in life have a tendency to take steps. They take small little steps. And those small little steps, over time, they add up. And then you eventually end up getting what you want. Whatever that goal is, whatever it is that you believe. If it's an argument that you're in, you and someone else disagrees about money, the relationship, something. You want to continue to put yourself in a situation where, you know what? It ain't that deep. It ain't that deep. I'm gonna be okay. So that's my message today. That's how you reduce stress, anger, frustration. Realize that you have everything that you need. And the stress that you have is coming from the things that you want. But want, you got to give that time. Want doesn't always happen at your time, the time that you want it. Sometimes want happens, many times in life, want happens over time. It's about patience, giving yourself an opportunity to build towards the thing that you want. So that's my message today. Once again, this is Coach Ra. Get at me if you need some help. I've been receiving some DMs from people, and it's been kind of 50-50. I get DMs from people who want to learn about fitness and all of that, and then I get DMs from people who are going through things in life. And I just want to, really emphasize, go back to basics. If you are DMing me about fitness, I appreciate it. If that's your challenge, my challenge to you is movement. That's the key to fitness. Fitness is not about fancy gyms, weights, all that kind of stuff. Fitness is this. It's walking, getting up and running, movement. The more movement that you implore, that you activate, the more athletic you become. So just think about that. Peace.